Alright guys, what's up? Hope everyone's safe and well. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are mentally strong and you and your families are keeping safe. Thank you for tuning in again. I hope you enjoyed the last episode we did, which was George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. Bear in mind though, it was my first video where I'm actually talking to you guys and discussing albums that have influenced my life. I'm used to just sitting at the piano or the guitar and singing you a song because I am a songwriter and a performer first and foremost. But I'm trying to put a bit more of my personality into this. Do I have one? Who knows? I don't even care. I'm just happy to talk about music. So on to this episode, which is a masterpiece again. Of course, I'm going to say that because I like all of these records. Like I say, they have influenced my life and my songwriting more importantly. And I hope that they have kind of touched you in some kind of way. You might have a very different opinion, and that's cool. This is what the beauty of this thing is. So, this vinyl, or this album should I say, was released in May 1969. As we know, 1969 is an iconic year for many, many things. And it was released on Atlantic Records, and it was the first album that was released as a trio. So there's a clue, even though you can see it in the title of this YouTube video anyway. It reached number 6 on the Billboard Top Pop Albums charts and went 4 times platinum, selling 4 million albums in the US alone. So just to put that into perspective for you, you don't sell anything like that now. It's all done streaming. You only need a few thousand or so, a few 100,000. I don't even know if it's that much to get to number 1 in the UK charts, for example. Obviously, America is a much bigger place. But I would dare say in America that they don't need to sell as many anymore because 1, streaming is involved, people not buying records, and 2, it's just the way that life has gone in order to reach number 1. So to sell 4 million in the US alone is phenomenal. Most artists wouldn't reach that in their entire career nowadays. So yeah, it just shows you like the massive scale that they operated on and how much of an audience they reached. And it did actually go gold in the UK and France. I have very fond memories of this band. So my dad used to listen to them as I was growing up. He had a best of on CD. I'm from the CD era. And then I didn't fully appreciate them really until a few years back when I started getting into more of the folky, rocky American sound. And then when I met my partner, one of her favourite songs was by this band, and it just started from there really. And now they're kind of a staple that we put on the record player, or if we're looking for something to listen to. So without further ado, you would think that drum roll might be a bit better with me being a musician, but what the hell. There it is. Crosby, Stills and Nash, the very first album that they brought out. So, this is number 262 on Rolling Stone's Top 500 Albums of All Time. It won a Grammy in 1970 for Best New Artist. Now you might think, why did it win a Grammy for the Best New Artist? But what you've got to understand is this is the first time this trio had played together. Bit of a super group, if you were. They'd all been in bands. So Graham Nash was in the Hollies. Stephen Stills was in Buffalo Springfield. And David Crosby in the Byrds. The Byrds. Might do another video on one of their vinyls later on. They've got my favourite 60s guitar sound. The Rickenbacker, of course. But I digress. We'll stick with this. So, the first time they played together. And when you look at the backstory, it's a very interesting backstory. They had not long been playing together when they made this album as well, which we'll get into a little bit more. It has been reissued on CD 3 times, and I believe that this vinyl that I hold in my hands was reissued in the 1980s. It's a shame it's not from 69, but I dread to think the price of that. But if anybody knows anyone who is selling vinyl from that era that isn't going to break my bank account, comment below. Alternatively, websites, whatever, very much appreciated. But for now, I'm happy with this one. We've got a very interesting cover there. And the cover itself and the sound of the record was influential. So thinking of the sound of the record, right? You look at the bands that these were in. You've got the Hollies, who are quite poppy, I suppose. You know, you look back at some of their records and you can hear that kind of little bit Beatlesy, we'll call it pop because that's what it was, that poppy sound. You've got Buffalo Springfield with Stephen Stills, who, you know, they were very raw, quite bluesy at times. And you had Neil Young in there, so the guitars were just screaming and loud, brilliant. And you got David Crosby, who's in the Byrds. Well, Roger McGuinn, the basis of everything he did was folk. So you combine that with David Crosby's sound and the other influences in the Byrds, you've got that folk rock sound, very Californian sound. Combine that together with these three, you've got a rock, bluesy, folky, whatever you want to call that. It's just an amazing sound. And the trio that you see there did actually sing and play on all the tracks, but notably Stephen Stills produced this record and did a lot of the instrumental work on there. When you hear them talk about Stephen Stills, especially Neil Young, who didn't join till later on, but when you hear him talk about Stephen Stills, they have so much respect for him as a musician, and it's nice to listen to. So yeah, very, very talented man, considering he was born deaf, I believe. A modern day Beethoven, who knows, but a genius nonetheless. Okay, so these guys did play Woodstock. As I said, 1969 was a very iconic year. And they performed every song off this record except for one. I don't know what that one song was they didn't play, but who cares? They were at Woodstock. It means that they are iconic for that reason. Radio stations, this is important, you would not get this now. Radio stations played the entire album from start to finish. What does that tell you? That tells you that it's an amazing record with amazing songwriting craft, and that them songs had so much appeal that a radio station or various radio stations felt they could play this record from start to finish. You would not get that now because people want quick hits, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, done and dusted. Pull it from YouTube to play it online. Let's play it on the radio, sorry. Not them days. That's amazing, isn't it? How times have changed. So going back to the cover, I said that was iconic as well. So again, in a similar vein to All Things Must Pass, it's a very simple looking cover. 3 dudes sat on a chair. I believe the house behind them was an abandoned house, and I know for a fact that they weren't happy with this photo shoot, and they decided to come back to it a week later, but the house behind them had been torn down and was no longer there. That takes us into the gatefold sleeve, where there's a photo in there that we'll look at in a moment, which is afterwards, which is what they kind of, from reading it seems like it's what they settled for, along with this, but personally I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I think it works, and it kind of lets the music do the talking for me. But one thing to notice is they're not sat in order. So that's Graham Nash, that's Stephen Stills, and that's David Crosby, but yet we've got Crosby, Stills, Nash there. So they're actually sat Nash, Stills, Crosby. Quite funny. Don't know if that was intentional, but again, it's not anything that really matters. It's just interesting facts. Okay, so on the back there, we have an unusual looking dude. I don't know his name. People think it's Neil Young. It's not Neil Young. We'll just squash that illusion now. It is not Neil Young. The name is slowly come back to me. It's on Dallas Taylor. That's the one. And he was the drummer. That's the one. Yeah, so that's Dallas Taylor. Not Neil Young. So if you think that is Neil Young, give your head a shake, because it looks quite like Neil Young. Got it? Dallas Taylor, that's the one. It was right there, it was there. Okay, so as we open it up, let's have a little look at the gatefold. Now that is just vinyl. It's one of those things with vinyl, right? You get it It's like holding the Mona Lisa or something, right? You're holding a piece of art. There's just, I can't describe, I don't know what word it is, but when you get a gatefold and you open that up for the first time and you see the picture, sometimes it's lyrics, sometimes it's not. In this case, it's the band. And it's, again, a very simple photo. It's the three lads in the band, but again, it just gives you some kind of feeling that, I don't know, it's just so pleasing and so satisfying and so... Is it heartwarming? I don't know. But it's just a feeling like no other that you do not get with CDs and you certainly do not get with streaming. Yeah, it's just something special. Let's have a look at the track listing. So, there's the vinyl. I'm not going to bore you with the vinyl itself. It's got the Atlantic Records logo and the track listing. It's very nice. It's black. It's not scratched because I haven't had it that long. So yeah, there you go. It's a vinyl and it sounds great. Inside we get this lovely looking thing. So, like many vinyl records, we get the lyrics and we've got some interesting artwork which is clearly drawn by somebody. Now I don't know if this is drawn by the band or this is just me kind of speculating. Maybe it was drawn by Joni Mitchell. I know Joni Mitchell was into artwork and she was dating Graham Nash at the time. Who knows? I like to think it was Joni Mitchell. I am probably wrong, and that's just my opinion that might be Joni Mitchell, so don't fact check me on that one because I'm just making things up. It's what I would like to think. But nonetheless, it's very beautiful and dreamy. So, track listing. We've got a 10-track album. And if we start with track 1, Sweet, Judy Blue Eyes. Now, this is a track that was written by Stephen Stills. The opening track is 7 minutes 22 seconds long. Now, just going back to what I said earlier, where radio played this whole thing from start to finish. That is unbelievable. Radio would not do that now. I'm surprised radio did that back then, but it just shows how good this material was. So yeah, written by Stephen Stills, 7 minutes 22, a great opening track. You wouldn't get many people having the balls now to open an album with a track that's 7 minutes 22 seconds long. Going to track 2 is Marrakech Express. We all know how big a hit that one was, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this one. You might notice that as I'm going through this, I'll spend a bit more time on certain tracks compared to others. It's nothing personal. Marrakech Express, 2 minutes 36 long, perfect single length, written by Graham Nash, and as a single it reached number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100, so in those days it was really good. And Graham Nash did actually write the song whilst he was travelling on the Marrakech Express, so it's actually a real thing. And I believe it was when he moved from first class and just moving down the carriage and talking about his experiences. And the song does actually sound like a bit of a train ride as well if you listen to the rhythm. They've definitely captured that feeling in there. On the same lines, well, not on the same lines, but the same songwriter, Graham Nash, he also wrote a track on this album called Lady of the Island. Interesting fact about Marrakech Express and Lady of the Island. When Graham Nash was in the Hollies, he presented these two tracks. They were rejected by the Hollies. Now, don't know if that's the band, the producer at the time, or what, but either way, those tracks were rejected. Notably, Lady of the Island was rejected because it was too personal. Now, I have a bit of a problem with that, because being a songwriter, there is no way that you can compose a song that is not personal. Yes, you can write about gobbledygook, but in some way, shape or form, the reason you are putting those words onto paper is because it means something, even if you don't know it at the time. So, no matter how much the Hollies could have masked it, or have said it's too personal, so we're going to reject it, you know, at some point, when they've done whatever they want, whatever they would have done with it, there would still be an element of that personal aspect in there from Graham Nash. You can never take that out of the song. Whether Graham Nash would disclose how personal it was to the audience is up to him. But a songwriter is always going to have a personal connection to a song, and that output is always going to be personal in some way, shape or form, no matter how much you try to dress it up and hide it behind illusion and metaphors. It just doesn't happen. There's always a personal thing there. So it shocks me that the Hollies, because I do like the Hollies, rejected that. And fair play to Graham Nash for doing one and taking it here, because he had a bit more longevity with it. A bit more? A lot more. So yeah, interesting. Guinevere. Now, this is 4 minutes 43 long. And interesting track, this one. Written about 3 former lovers in Crosby's life. And one thing to note, this is where you might see some of the influence from the Byrds coming in with David Crosby, right? And this is kind of something that influences me with David Crosby. And even Crosby, Stills and Nash as a whole, right? So some of the songs have strange tunings, and what I mean by that is the way they tune the guitar. So on a standard guitar tuning, musicians, you will all know, you get E, A, D, G, B, E as your 6-string tuning. However, this song is E, B, D, G, A, D. It's unusual because it's away from the standard tuning. Not unusual in that sense because you're only tuning a couple of strings differently or whatever. But it makes for a very interesting sound, and that is where that folky influence, in my opinion, comes from, because a lot of folk songs would tune things differently. It's like Roger McGuinn would tune differently, and I'm guessing he would encourage David Crosby to do the same. So whether that's come from Roger McGuinn or he already knew that, I don't know. But again, that is an influence on me, because it's different sounds, it's different ways to explore the guitar as an instrument, different kind of, a different vibe completely on your songs, and you do hear it in tracks like that. And it has been noted that Crosby has said that he felt that is his best song, which is very interesting. And Miles Davis did record this in 1970. And it's funny, because if you follow David Crosby on Twitter, in 2017 he tweeted that he finally got it. So he couldn't see a resemblance between the two versions. I'm guessing he's not that big into jazz. Right, You Don't Have to Cry is a track by Stephen Stills. Okay, so 2 minutes 43. I believe this is the first song that the group sang together, so quite a notable moment in this band's career. Now there is much speculation about where it was where they sang this song together. If you watch an interview on YouTube, I think it's like 60 Minutes something, they all argue about it and they all think it was in a different place, and Joni Mitchell has her own opinion as well. Go check it out, it's quite funny. Next song, Pre-Road Downs, written by Graham Nash. 2 minutes 59. This is the closer to side 1. Yeah, a good closer. Not a lot that I know about this one really, just except that it's a great song. For me, it's a good way to end side 1. It's not too long, and it's, I mean, you can see by the lyrics there, it's literally a very short space of time. Well, all right, moving on. The next track I do want to talk a bit more detail about, Wooden Ships. Now the reason for that is because it's my favourite on this record, and it's my partner's favourite as well. Now this one was written by David Crosby and Stephen Stills and Paul Kantner. For those who don't know who Paul Kantner is, he is from Jefferson Aeroplane, and they have a version of this song as well that they did release before Crosby, Stills and Nash, I believe. I could be wrong, who knows. I might have to check my facts on that one, but I know Jefferson Aeroplane definitely have a version, and it is a lot more psychedelic in my opinion than Crosby, Stills and Nash, so go check it out. Yeah, it's my favourite, and the reason it's my favourite, it's probably the most influential track to me as a songwriter. The guitars are amazing. I love what they're singing about. I love the harmonies, I love the structure, I love the rhythm. It's just brilliant. I love the Hammond organ that you hear. It's just brilliant, and I love how it changes all the time, and it's like it's flowing in and out. It's groovy at the same time. Interesting fact, when I first heard it, I thought that they were talking about drugs in the song, with it being 1969. I thought as well that they were probably high in the studio. I don't know if they weren't. I hope they were. But they were actually referring to the Vietnam War in the track. So, for example, let me find the line. Say, can I have some of your purple berries? I thought that was a reference to like LSD or something at the time, but purple berries represent iodine pills which protect against a radioactive fallout. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And there's also talk in there, silver people on the shoreline let us be. Silver people refers to silver suit guys, as they were called. And the silver suit guys, so the suits they're wearing were radiation suits, obviously to protect from radiation. Didn't know that either. I just thought that this was all stuff about, you know, when they were tripping. But it's actually stuff about the Vietnam War. And it makes sense that it's a bit of a protest song because it was hot at the time. Alright, so we have next Helplessly Hoping, sung by Stephen Stills, 2 minutes 37. I've not really got a lot to say on that song, except it's fantastic. So I'm going to move on to Long Time Gone, which is a David Crosby composition as well. Now, something to tell you about David Crosby. For me, if you compare his vocal style to Stephen Stills and Graham Nash, he's got more of the gruff, gravelly sound, in my opinion. This video is just all my opinion, right? He stands out when he really belts it, and you can hear it on this song. So if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It could be because it's his song that he gets a little standout part, I don't know. But I think his vocal performance is brilliant on this one. And it was the B-side to Judy Blue Eyes, which is track 1. So that's interesting that they use in album tracks as the B-sides as well, rather than totally different tracks. Makes you wonder if they ran out of songs or if they just really wanted to push the album out there. But either way, doesn't bother me. And finally, we've got a song by Stephen Stills, 49 Bye-Byes. Okay, I couldn't find any information on this track, except it's just a great closer to the album. So, this is from listening to it, right, as I was kind of researching this and like had the album on in the background and stuff, I hear a bit of funk going on there. If you listen to the drums, so it's got quite a funky rhythm, again in my opinion, and it's, with the hi-hats you can hear like them opening and closing, so tss, tss, that kind of sound, listen out for that. Again, provides like quite interesting rhythmic qualities for me, which sounds funky. Very soulful indeed. Another thing that I noticed as well, it says the line in the song, Bye Bye Baby. The way it's sung, reminded me of the Four Seasons, which we all know their song, Bye Bye Baby, Baby Goodbye. This song, it's slowed down a little bit how they sing it, they hold the notes, but I heard the Four Seasons in there, and I got that vibe. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it works for me, and I like that, I hear that. But a great closer, it's like the closing track to a gig. You don't want the band to leave on a downer and do something too chilled out, and this doesn't. It closes the album on something where you can clearly hear there was live playing going on in the studio. People sound like they're having a good time, especially the drummer. There's some great guitar work, fantastic vocal work as usual, the harmonies, and a great ender to the album. So overall, it's just a killer album, isn't it? It's influenced me so many ways, as I've said, as we've been talking about this. The guitars, interesting guitar work. Stephen Stills is a master on the guitar. The structure of the songs, every song has something different. And the fact that there's 3 songwriters, it's like you're getting different personalities all the time. And I love that. There's something to take from each song and each songwriter. I love how we're not stuck in one genre, like Wooden Ships. You compare that to Marrakech Express. They're quite far apart, and I love that. It's not an album that is like, you know, it's been deliberately made to flow in terms of like its sound. They weren't scared to push the boat out, and that's a massive influence, and I love how they let them influences come through as well, of folk, rock, blues, etc. It's just fantastic. Hopefully you guys feel the same. If you do feel the same, you've got anything else to add to anything I've said today, feel free to put it in the comments below. There's plenty that you can comment on. But otherwise, guys, thank you for tuning in today. If you can hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell for me, it's very much appreciated. And I will see you in the next one. Look after yourselves.